Hi, Steve.
Hi, Bob.
Take three?
Take three it
Take
is.
three, okay. So, Good at Almost. That's the song that's coming out, right?
Good at Almost. It actually released today.
Today. Well, depending on when this comes out. Probably
Depending on
today.
this, most likely today.
All right, so tell me all about this song that you worked on.
Okay, so this song, I wrote it about 5 weeks ago. It all started with about 2 lines that popped into my head while I was listening to a guitar part on a loop. So I got 2 lines and then liked those 2 lines so much I wrote the entire rest of the song based on it.
Which 2 lines?
So in the second verse of the song, the first line of the second verse says, you're good at almost listening to what your therapist says.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last line of that verse is, you're pretty damn good at almost saying I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I took those 2 lines and just ran with it from there. I made the rest of that verse, then I made the chorus, then I made the first verse that originally was the second verse, and then I flipped them.
Mm-hmm.
So this was all a process that took maybe 3 hours of one night for me to put it all together.
Well, more about the actual lyrics themselves.
About the lyrics.
Yeah, what made those lines kind of resonate with you?
So that particular night, I had been drinking, as I do, and I'd been watching a movie that I hadn't seen in a few years, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Okay.
There's a whole story about that I won't get into.
Okay.
But it made me think of a specific person who I no longer speak to.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought up some things that went on in my life. And next thing I know, I had this guitar music looping, and it just, I can't really explain it. Those lines just popped into my head based on the situation I had been in years ago, and things that had happened since that situation years ago.
So this is kind of a very deeply personal song, right?
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of, I don't want to call it a cheap shot at somebody,
Okay.
but it's kind of a cheap shot at somebody.
Well, how does this song tie? Because we've talked a little bit about the album before.
Yes.
How does this kind of tie into the whole theme of everything put together?
So the album that I'm working on, it's called KMS, spelled out, but the K, M, and S are capitalized when it's spelled out. So everybody knows the connotation of what KMS stands for, Xenia text, stuff like that. But also, KMS are the first initials of the 3 people that this album is basically about. And the whole album is kind of my journey working my way through those, you don't want to call them relationships, but through those situations, and kind of, everything I felt at the time and where I went wrong, where they went wrong, things that made me sad, things that made me angry, just a lot of reflection over, I guess it was probably about 10 to 12 years of my life. And this album is going to kind of put all of that in perspective for me to make it, and then hopefully for people listening to it as well.
So why is it the right time to release this?
So I had actually started working on this. I started getting the idea for it. I think that was my phone.
That was me.
Oh, okay. Either way, I can cut that part out.
Yep. I had it muted. Then we went outside.
And then it got unmuted.
And I unmuted it.
I might leave that in just for comedic effect.
I'm a professional. Alright, go on.
Okay. Ask me the question.
So out of all the time, you could have released this song 5 years ago, or you could have released all of these songs 5 years ago. You could have waited 6 months to a year to release them. Why is now the right time?
All right, so I started working on this, I want to say it was 2018, maybe 2019, when I got the idea to start writing some of these songs. It started when I was in therapy, which I still am.
Good.
But I was really trying to focus on myself and work through a lot of the issues that I had. So my therapist had me writing things down in a notebook, and some came out as poems and song lyrics and things like that. So she had actually given me the idea of why not write full songs, right? Why not use that to kind of process what's going on in your head? So I did that, and I had a lot of these songs written. Some of them were written even before this happened. Some of them were written back in 2011, 2010. But that was when a big chunk of it was written, starting at like 2018, 2019. And I wrote them without ever intending anyone to hear them, without me ever even intending to sing them. I just wrote them to kind of...
Is more of a catharsis?
Yeah, it was kind of just to work things out for myself.
Okay.
And I never intended to record them because I knew a lot of stuff I have to say on these songs is going to damage relationships I have with the people these songs are about, with their friends who I'm also friends with in some cases, with just a lot of people in my life, and I didn't want to do that. And I think part of me was still kind of holding on to these people and saying, you know, we could work through this, we can get back to the way things used to be when everything was good. So I didn't want to put these out then specifically because I didn't want to damage that. I didn't want to break those ties.
So for now, it's you actually feeling comfortable enough to release these is you putting the past behind you and moving forward.
Exactly. I think I'm finally at a point now where I've gone through everything. I've processed everything I need to process. I've worked on myself. I'm in a much better place mentally now than I really ever have been in my life.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yes. And I know you know me a long time. You've seen all the ups and downs, so you know the full cycle of everything.
I've seen you like riding high on life, and I've seen you in a bathtub drinking Four Loko.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Probably because I was in the bathtub drinking Four Loko.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so you've seen it all, so you kind of know what I've gone through. And now I'm at the point where I'm probably, I don't want to jinx anything, but I'd say I'm probably the most mentally stable I've ever been.
That's great.
So now I'm at a point where I can release these because I don't care about those ties anymore. I went from I won't do it because I want to bring these people back into my life to now, why would I want to bring these people back into my life?
Yeah.
I kind of got that different perspective of it and realized
you're a different person now.
Yeah, it's not what I'm holding on to anymore. It's not what I need anymore.
So with kind of on that same theme of why now, why Good at Almost first? Like you sent me a couple drafts of different songs, and some you've written a long time ago. Good at Almost, you said you just wrote recently.
Yeah, this was the most recent one.
So why is this first?
So that has a lot to do with some of the things that I am still working on with myself. One of those things is that I can be very petty at times. And I've been listening a lot to a lot of different music that I don't want to say influences my style or anything, but it does influence the way I think about music, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that has been, you know, things like Taylor Swift, and everybody knows how she can be. I've had friends call me the male Taylor Swift a couple times.
Mailer Swift?
Yes. But really, right around the time I started recording this song, there was an album that came out by Kelsea Ballerini.
Okay.
I really like her. She's a great artist. She put out a 6-song album that's basically a divorce album. Her and her husband recently split up, and he had put out a song basically saying, like, if he was blindsided by what happened and asking her where it went wrong. And she responded with this whole album, like, laying out exactly what went wrong one at a time. And I was like, that is the greatest idea to release, like the greatest way to release something I ever thought of. So this song specifically
also feels like kind of a recurring theme in modern music lately with like Miley Cyrus's latest album, Taylor Swift's whole discography.
Well, what made this specific one different was she actually used his own words from his song against him.
Yeah.
Like his song is called Over For You, and it says, you know, the last line is, the chorus is, you know, when was it over for you? And the first song on Kelsea Ballerini's album, the last line of her chorus is, I think this is when it's over for me.
Oh, interesting.
Just like she took everything he said and put it back on him.
So is without getting into too many details and revealing anything about the people that it's about, is there anything in your song that's kind of a similar idea?
I I didn't take anything she said to me or about me. I did take things from her life that kind of are personal. The biggest thing is that line I mentioned, the pretty damn good at almost saying I do. Because this was a few years ago now. I don't remember exactly when, but I know she had been engaged and broke that off. So that was part of the inspiration for that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, this is the petty side of me coming out, which was something I had to still work through and something I'm still working on with that.
So what would you say, and you feel free to cut this out because I'm getting a little personal here.
I asked you to do this, Bob, because I want you to ask whatever you want to ask, because I know you know me.
So what would you say if like one of her friends came up to you and be like, I know exactly what this is about, how could you do this?
I never really thought about that. I don't really talk to a lot of people that she's still close with.
Yeah.
I'd say, if anything, the only people who would actually listen to my music that she still talks to are also my friends, so I think they'd have that other perspective of it. I can think of a couple people who she's friends with who might confront me about things if they heard it, but I don't think they would ever hear it.
That's not a lot of faith in your distribution there.
It's not just that. It's that it's not their kind of music,
right?
And most of them either have blocked me or I have blocked them on most social media. But if one of her friends were to hear it and were to come confront me at this, I would just honestly probably laugh.
Yeah.
I'd say, thanks for listening. Have a good day.
Yeah. Well, always happy to have a fan.
Yeah. It's not like I'm attacking anybody.
No, it's more for your own self-discovery, right?
Yeah. I'm not, with the exception of one song I'm planning that is full on attack mode. Every other song is just going to be me kind of saying what I was feeling at the time, what I was thinking, where I'm at now, kind of my perspective on the people, the relationships, the feelings, all that. I'm not doing it to be angry or hurtful or anything like that. Number one, the people these songs are about, I don't think we'll ever hear them. Because they are blocked on everything. I have their numbers blocked, I have all their social medias blocked.
But so what are you using this album for? You said a lot of it came out of therapy.
Yes.
So what is this whole album and the song and the rest of the songs for?
Honestly, for me, and for people who might relate to these things, to find that connection. I know I found a lot of help just listening to music and hearing things that I connected with, even if they weren't good things, even if they were like a petty breakup song, or even if they were like an angry, hateful song. Like, it made me feel better to listen to them, not in like the I agree with everything they're saying kind of way, just in the other people go through this, everybody has their own way of processing it kind of way.
So you're hoping that somebody will hear it and feel like a connection with it.
Right, exactly. And I know a lot of the things I write are kind of specific, which makes me think it might be hard to connect with some people. But on the other hand, I have songs that I think are very specifically written that you would think they have to be about one specific person, and they apply to all three people that this album is about. Yeah. So if they apply to three people in my life, I'm sure they apply to somebody in somebody else's life too. Now,
what about the other songs? So this one's kind of, you said, more to work through your pettiness. What about other songs on the album that are going to be coming out? Like, what are some of the other kind of emotions and things you're channeling there?
There's still definitely going to be some pettiness in those.
Fair.
There's going to be some anger. There's going to be some heartbreak. Some of them will be happy songs. They'll be like reminiscing on good times. A lot of it is going to be kind of looking at myself and being very self-critical, saying, I recognize this is where I went wrong, and I shouldn't have done this, and I was acting like this and shouldn't have. And I mean, as hard as this album is going to be on these other people, it's going to be equally as hard on me, I think. I'm not...
Why is that?
Just another part of me working through what I have to work through, me recognizing that I was part of the problem, and that a big part of why some of these things didn't work out is because of me. I wouldn't say any of them were 100% my fault, but a lot of it was. And at the time, I didn't want to accept that. I wanted to put the blame on everybody else.
I think that takes a lot of maturity to realize that
Yeah,
Because a lot of people like will go their whole lives without being able to admit that.
Yeah, it kind of took me stepping away from the situations and getting away from, cutting off contact with them, cutting off contact with some of their friends, kind of allowing myself to forget about them just enough to be able to go back and see it with a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, I think that some of this is like the maturity that comes with growing up. Like,
Yeah.
This is like very much like stuff that happened in your late teens and 20s.
Yeah, these situations go from when I was still in high school up to, I don't even remember when the last one was, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's good in itself.
2017, 2018, right around the time I started working on the album, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it was that breakup I'm thinking of, the last one or the most recent of the ones that this song is about, or that this album is about. That breakup is what sent me back into therapy, because I recognized I needed to go talk to somebody. And then that time going to therapy is what led to all of this.
So you've been in therapy a couple of years now?
I have. I mean, I've been off and on since I was in college, since like my freshman year of college. But I've been consistently for a good 4 years now.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I never got to this point before was because I wasn't consistent with it.
Yeah.
So being in it, actually sticking with it for once, instead of just being like, okay, I feel better now, I'm done with this.
Yeah, it's more of a process than anything.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much you had to actually stick with it, that just because you had a week where you felt better didn't mean you actually were.
Yeah, so it kind of ebbs and flows then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even now it still does, but it's gotten to the point where it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. Like, even my bad days are still pretty good now.
Yeah.
And that's something that didn't used to be the case.
Now, is music kind of like a good coping mechanism? Like, how has music helped you in the process?
Music has actually been the coping mechanism for me.
And now, is it like, how much of it is like listening versus writing?
It actually started with just playing. I bought a guitar when I was living in Virginia. Just impulse bought it, went to the store and being like, I'm going to buy myself a guitar. And I started using that where if I was sitting home at night and I had nothing else to do, these are times when I would normally, go out to the bar and drink a lot and watch sports on TV and who knows what else, what other kind of trouble I would get into. And I got to the point where I just started picking up the guitar and playing that instead of going out all the time. And I didn't realize how self-destructive me going out all the time back then had been.
Yeah.
Because I drink way too much, put myself in a bad mental state, bad things would happen. So the music kind of kept me out of all of that, just sitting and basically learning how to play guitar badly, but learning how to play guitar.
You gotta be bad before you're good.
Exactly. And then that kind of stemmed into, hey, I have these poems, let me see if I can put them to music.
I remember you showing me some stuff like over a decade ago. I remember you like even had written songs at the time.
I think I had given you a couple of songs I'd written and said, could you make music for these and make them sound good?
Yeah.
I still have those somewhere, I think. They're in my guitar cases.
I remember you gave me the notebook pages and I had them for like a couple of years, and then I found them again later and I'm like, Steve, I never gave these back to you.
I think it was when I came back from Virginia when you finally gave them back to me.
Yeah, I think so. I think it had been a while. I mean, they were pretty good. Are any of those going on the album at all, do you think? Or any like pieces?
I mean, those songs were about some of the same situations. But I'm not going to use those on this album specifically because those weren't written in a way I wanted to present them.
Makes sense. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll have something written and then like 5, 6, 7 years later I'll reread it and be like, I hate everything about this, but I like this line and this line.
And use that as like a jump off point to something new.
Yeah.
Well, I think my biggest issue with songs like that and other songs, I put out a couple songs in the past. Those are no longer streaming, but I had like an EP I put out. I had a couple singles I put out. My biggest problem with all of them is they weren't written for me. I wrote them trying to make them sound like something people want to listen to.
Yeah,
and
so
that did not work for me. So I took all those down. I said, some of them I actually didn't mind the songs, but just they weren't.
It felt kind of alien.
It felt forced. It felt like it wasn't me singing. So the whole point of this is to say, I don't care if people are going to like listening to it. I don't care about what people think about this. This is for me. I'm putting it out there. it might help somebody, it might not, but it's going to help me.
Yeah, and that's kind of what matters, because this is more about your journey and your personal growth.
Right.
Yeah, so is there anything else you want people to know about your current release, Good at Almost?
So Good at Almost, there is a music video for it. That's going to be on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
And it's also on YouTube if you want to look at it on YouTube. So the music video came out at the same time as the song. There's one thing I kind of want to say. I'm going to be petty again if that's okay.
Go for it. This is your video.
So I know we had talked earlier about, why this song first, and I brought up them being a little petty with it and all that. The reason specifically today, I'm not going to say the fully accurate reason, but there is a very specific reason today, and for those who do know me and know the situation, I just want to say that no, that was not an accident.
You
just
it just clicked, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to say that was not an accident. That was fully planned.
Oh my goodness!
But that's all. I'm not going to give any more detail than that.
It just clicked.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't say anything either.
Yeah. So like I said, that is why that song first, because that was the only one that was about this person.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, that kind of just threw me off a little bit, because I'm just like, that's really obvious.
I saw it hit your face, and I was like, he didn't realize it
that's
just
not,
now.
That's not for any of you. That's just for,
yeah.
So now, what about the rest of the music on this album? Like, what kind of ideas and like feelings and stuff are you going to explore there?
It's going to be a little bit of everything. It's going to be all completely different sounds. I don't think there's going to be a lot of, like, I pride myself on being like the country guy, and when I go to open mics, I do a lot of like Johnny Cash and Toby Keith and stuff like that. And there's going to be some stuff in that style, but there's going to be a lot of music you wouldn't expect me to be singing.
Yeah.
There's going to be rock, there's going to be pop, there may or may not be a rap or two mixed in there. It's just going to be whatever I was feeling at the time I wrote these songs.
Now you've said, I don't remember if we've said it on this one or on another one, you've said you've written all of these songs throughout your basically the last like 12 to 14 years or something like that.
Right. But it's basically starting when I was like 16, 17 years old and going up to now.
The music is more kind of like what you were listening to, what you're into
at the time,
combined with what you were feeling at the time.
Yeah. So like when I was in high school and my entire life growing up, all I listened to was country. And then toward the end of high school and getting into the beginning of college, I got really into like rap, hip hop, that kind of thing. Going through college, I mean, I still listen to my country, but I had that too. And then in the later years of college, I got really into pop punk and things like that, which I still am now. That's one of the main things I listen to now. So I think you're going to see, you might know, number one, which situation the song is about, and also when I wrote the song.
Yeah.
Based on
the genre.
Based on the genre of the song.
That's pretty cool. I know you sent me a couple of them, and I mentioned my favorite one that you sent me was, what was it called? Another Cigarette?
Another Cigarette.
Yeah. That one's not going to be released yet, but like, kind of like what was...
That will probably be the next one to do.
Because that one was a little bit more upbeat, even though the lyrics were a little bit darker. That's kind of like when there's a mix between that.
So that was kind of on purpose. That was the pop punk side of me coming out. Because I listen to a lot of songs that are like, this is the happiest song ever based on the music, and then this song is depressing based on the lyrics.
Yeah, it's got like a pumped up kicks.
Exactly. So yeah, that was done. That was a specific style choice that I did to kind of put it in that style. Trying to bring out more of the pop punk side, which I wish I could get my voice to do better. My voice does not like to do pop punk. It still comes out kind of. You
gotta just stick in what you know you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about other songs on the album? Like, how many do you think are going to be on it? Like, what can people expect, like, emotional wise?
So I'm looking at like 15 or 16 songs total. The emotional range of these songs, it's going to go all over the place, kind of like I did throughout the years as I was putting all this together. I'm just realizing this now, it really is going to kind of like reflect that entire time of my life. Like all the highs, all the lows, it's going to be all back and forth.
Now, how does that make you feel? Because like this is
It's weird to me that I've been
very
working on this for
vulnerable.
years and I just figured that out now.
Yeah.
It really is going to like trace the last 10 years at least of my life.
Yeah.
That's weird. I never noticed that. now I'm the one who lost for words.
Now, like, does it make you feel like vulnerable? Does it make you feel like everything is being put out there?
I wouldn't necessarily say vulnerable, just because number one, I just stumbled over the word, so I can't really say it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say vulnerable because I've always been, maybe not always, but I've been fairly open about my life and things going on in my head.
Yeah.
So I think vulnerable is the wrong word. I'd say, I don't even know what the word for it would be. It's like a combination of excitement and terror.
Yeah.
Excited that I'm finally putting everything out there, like not holding myself back anymore, not censoring anything anymore. And on the other hand, being like, this could backfire so many ways.
Why do you think now is the time where you feel you're okay not to censor yourself for the public?
Well, I think I've gotten to the point now where it's time to put these situations behind me. And I think the best way to do that is to not hold anything back anymore. I think the reason I was holding on for so long with all these situations was because I never got everything out there. I was still keeping things in that I really shouldn't have, which was very unhealthy for me and probably for the people around me in my life too. So I feel like now I'm at the point where I'm ready to put it all behind me. I know the best way to do that is to say everything I need to say. And this is probably the best way to do it for me, especially because some of the things I need to say, I want to say them to certain people that I no longer speak to.
Yeah.
So this is probably my way of kind of saying that to them and not caring if I get a response or not. I can't get a response, I have them all blocked.
Right.
But
yeah.
But so, it's kind of my way of just getting everything out there, saying everything I need to say, and just saying, okay, we're done now. Let's move on with our lives.
That's great. I like that sentiment a lot because it shows like real emotional maturity and growth and stuff. So usually when a door closes, another one opens. Is that old cliche?
That is.
What's kind of next? Like you that was your first third of the life, maybe.
Yeah.
That was like the from the 16 to like 20 something. What's like next for 30-plus-year-old Steve?
You know what? I can honestly say I have no idea, and that's probably the best thing for me right now. Because my entire life I have tried to plan every little piece of my life, and I had backup plans for the backup plans, and etc. And I was just always looking at adjusting my plan to fit the next thing that went wrong. And I think now I'm at the point where I don't need a plan. I don't know where I want to be. I don't know what I want to be doing, but I know how I want to feel. And that's the way I've been feeling lately for the last maybe year of my life. I've been in a really good place, and I just want to keep that feeling. So wherever life takes me, I don't need a plan for it. I just know I'm going to do what I need to do to maintain this feeling. And that's all I have planned.
I feel like that is a really, really great sentiment to keep as a button for this. So I will just kind of finish it off with this.
Okay.
If there's one more thing you want anybody to know about you, your music, the single that you just put out, the whole album itself, the music video, anything else you want to add, I think you could say it now.
I think the only thing I want to say is I appreciate anybody who listens to it. I appreciate the people who have listened and have told me their thoughts, good or bad. I like criticism either way. So thank you to everybody that listened, and keep an eye out for the full album. I'm shooting for sometime in May for that to come out. I may do one other song release before the full album comes out. So if the full album isn't ready by May, I'm going to do another single in May, and I have the full album out in June. But keep an eye out for, I'd say early May for a release, and then middle to late June for another release.
And tell people where they can find your music.
Oh yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
So the music video.
Professional.
The music video is going to be on my Facebook page, Steve Muschel Music, and on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Steve Muschel. The song is streaming on all major platforms, so Spotify, Apple Music, think it's on Amazon Prime Music. It's on the YouTube Music channel they have. A bunch of littler ones too that I don't really know the names of, to be honest. But yeah, all major streaming platforms it's on. If you need to find a link to any of them, I just today put up on my Facebook page and my Instagram page what's that website, Linktree or something like that. So if you follow that link, that has my Facebook page, my Instagram page, I don't think I put my Twitter on there yet, but that will be on there. And then the Spotify link and the Apple Music link.
And his personal phone number is going right here.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'll put yours there.
No, don't you dare.
I think that's it then.
Yeah, I appreciate you sitting down.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Bob.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
This is cool. All right.
Yeah, that was fun.
Go listen to his music. Bye, everyone.